Hey friends, it's Loree with the blog wagonwheelhomestead.com. Welcome to my outdoor canning kitchen. This is underneath my deck. I don't have anything permanently set up here yet because I'm not exactly sure how I want it. I keep moving things around a little bit. But over here I have a double sink. It's like what you would use if you were going to wash laundry the old-fashioned way, like in a wringer washer. Which there's my wringer washer, and that's what I use if my washing machine ever breaks down, and it's right here by my clothesline, so that's super nice. So anyway, I can wash jars, wash dishes, all the things right there, wash produce, anything that we need. I just run a hose out here from my laundry faucet so I can have both hot and cold water. It's a little bit of a pain, but it can be done. Okay, so that's better than heating the water or hauling it from inside or whatever. And then over here, I have my 2-burner camp stove. It's a Camp Chef stove, and it works really well for these great big pots that we use when we're canning outside. So this is a fairly shady area. It does get sunny by the end of the day, which you may see by the end of today's project, but we'll just see how it goes. So we are going to be making raspberry jam and strawberry-rhubarb jam, and maybe even some raspberry-rhubarb jam. I'll see how far my rhubarb goes. So I have several pots here of raspberries. These are bags of raspberries that I picked actually last summer, so a little less than a year ago. And we're starting to pick this year's raspberries, and I never did get to this in the winter. So what I do when I pick raspberries, and same with strawberries, I just pick them. With the strawberries, I take the tops off and then just put it in a bag and put it in the freezer. And so now we're starting to put broccoli and cauliflower in the freezer and all kinds of things, even some green beans, a little bit of green beans in the freezer, although we can most of those. So I needed to get these out, thaw them out. So last night I just got them out and I set them in these bowls so that if they leaked any juice, which they have, into the bowls, that I didn't lose it all over the floor or the counter, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're just going to put them in some heavy bottom pots. So this is my cheese pot. It's a 10-gallon pot, okay? It's got a nice heavy bottom in it. This is actually my canner. It's all black because I use it out here on the Camp Chef quite a bit, but it's also got a nice heavy bottom so that your stuff won't burn, okay? It's nothing worse than burning a big, huge batch of tomato sauce or whatever it is that you're canning. Trust me, I know. So I'm just going to start combining these in these pots and just kind of see how much I have and how much I want to make. Then I'm also, the rhubarb I have is fresh, so I'm going to be chopping it up and I will add it in here. Then I'm going to start washing some jars. This is going to cook down quite a long time. I am making this jam without pectin, okay? This is an old-fashioned recipe. Back in the day, they did not go to the store and buy boxes of pectin. And by the way, that's very expensive. I have done that a lot. It's very easy to do. If you want to do that, you can go buy some boxes of pectin. Just follow the directions on the box, okay? It's very simple to do for making your own jams and jellies. By the way, if you're new to canning, making jams and jellies is a great place to start. And you can usually find fruit for free that people will let you come and pick if they have extra on their trees or whatever it is, right? So that's a great place to start with canning. But I'm going to show you today how to do it without pectin, okay? And so what that means is we're going to be cooking it down for a lot longer. Fruit has natural pectin in it, but it's not near as much. It's not as concentrated as if you add like a box of pectin, okay? So we're just going to cook this down for several hours until it's all nice and thick. We're going to look at it and put some on a frozen plate and see, how, if we like the consistency before we're done. And we'll put it in some jars, process it, and we will have it on the shelf for many months to come. We love to eat jams and jellies on pancakes, on sourdough pancakes, sourdough toast. We also like to eat it on top of ice cream, just like as an ice cream topper. It's also really good to put inside of like sourdough Pop-Tarts, okay? So for your kids, a fun little treat. So, all right, let's get started. This pot, I'm not going to use this pot. It was just to thaw things out in because this pot is a thin bottom pot. You definitely do not want to use a thin bottom pot. I'm just going to start dumping in. Let's see, I have more raspberries than strawberries. So I'm going to use my big pot for the raspberries. one thing about canning outside is there's going to be a few more flies. There's no way to get around it. I try to keep fly traps hanging up and just keep things covered. And it's, you know, it works out fine. Honestly, this time of year, there's flies that come in the house when you have 5 little kids opening and shutting the door all day. So we just do our best to keep them manageable. And usually I do this in the winter time inside, but it'll be really nice to get it done now outside. I prefer to do as much canning outside as possible. I'm going to put the strawberries here in this smaller pot. And I saved a bunch of strawberries in my freezer just for smoothies, or we like to make strawberry waffles, lots of things like that. But we really love strawberry rhubarb jam. And I think actually, now that I think about it, just because of time, I think I'm just going to make 2 pots, strawberry rhubarb, and then the plain raspberry. It'd be fun to make raspberry rhubarb, but it's probably, you know, it's all gonna taste fine, right? It's all good. We don't have to make 10 different kinds. Those of you that are new here, we grow a large market, or large, decent sized market garden. And so this is a very busy time for us. We're getting ready to go to market, and I just really need to get this done. So I don't really want to stay up and do a whole nother batch of a different kind of jam. But you could do this for lots of different kinds of jam, okay? And you can even do this for jelly. You can do this with just plain juice and not have the fruit. These are all the beautiful strawberries from our garden. So yummy. If you do juice, you're just going to have to thicken it a little longer. You could also put a little apple juice with it, and that would make it thicken up quicker because apples naturally have more pectin. So anyway, I'm just going to put these on the stove and get them cooking, and then we will add the sugar here in just a few minutes. Okay, and then this is some rhubarb I picked from a friend of mine a couple days ago, actually. And I just finally am getting around to using it. So a lot of times what I do with rhubarb is I just pull it. You always want to pull it. You don't want to cut it off, okay? Because then it will keep producing if you just pull it up by the root. So a lot of times what I do is just break off the leaves, and then I use just run the bottom part through the food processor on the, the slicer setting, and then I just put it in the freezer. And I could do that, but there's not a lot here, so I am just gonna chop it up here and put it right in with the strawberries if it will fit. We'll see how this goes. I'm just cutting off the leaves, and then of course the end that was down in the ground. Then we'll just slice these up and we'll get them cooking. right, so this is the strawberry rhubarb. Starting to bubble pretty good, as you can see. So I'm going to add the sugar. Now, I'm just guessing as to how much fruit this is. Okay, I'm guessing this is about 4 gallons of fruit. Okay, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna put 1 part sugar to 2 parts fruit. Okay, it could be a little bit less fruit than that, but a little more sugar won't hurt it. It's fine. We don't eat a lot of it at a time, so it's more of a delicacy. So I'm gonna put, for 4 gallons of fruit, 24 cups of sugar, okay, in this pot. And then this is the raspberries. Whew. And they are bubbling nicely also. And so for these, we're going to put in 32 cups of sugar because this is a 10-gallon pot. This is what I use to make my cheese. And we're going to guesstimate that this is about 6 gallons of raspberries. So I'm going to put 32 cups of sugar in here, and we'll just let it cook until it's the consistency we like, and I will walk you through that process. Alright, so it took about an hour for these to heat up. Of course, they're really big pots, so if you do smaller pots on the stove, it won't take that long. This one is starting to look good. I'm just simmering them on really low heat. Okay, that's the strawberry rhubarb. This is the raspberry, and it had some more juice in it, so it's going to take it a little longer. One thing I will say about making jam this way is it's not going to turn out really clear and pretty like you might find store-bought jam to be. That's what you would, if you want it like that, you would need to make it with pectin from the store. But this would cost you a fair bit of money in pectin to make this much jelly. Pectin is expensive. So I'm totally fine if it's a little bit darker color and if it's just fruit from my homestead and sugar. Totally fine with me. So you can tell it's definitely reduced down quite a ways. And so what we're going to do to get rid of some of the foam off the top is we're going to just put, this is fresh butter that I just made, okay? We're just going to take a good spoonful of butter here, and we're just going to put it in the pot, let it melt and stir around, and that will take care of all the foam, so you don't have to scoop that off. We want to leave all the goodie with this. And this one doesn't have as much foam, so I'm not going to put any butter in it now. If it gets some later, that's fine. Okay. And I have a little plate here that's been in the freezer, so it's cold. What I'm going to do is just take out a good spoonful of jam and put it right here on this cold plate. Let it get cold and see how I think it's setting up. I've got all kinds of little trucks that some little person has brought by here. Okay. And we're just gonna test it and see if we think it's setting up. I feel like now it's still a little syrupy, so I'm gonna keep cooking it down. Okay, I'm gonna wash this plate off, put it back in the freezer so I can use it next time here in maybe another half hour or so. Okay, and we'll see what happens. The other thing you can do is actually just put some on a plate and put it in the refrigerator. Let it cool down really good, and that will give you a really good indication as to how thick your jam is. So, but see, it's still kind of runny. So we're gonna let it continue to simmer here. Just on a nice slow boil. And we stir every so often. All right, back after a few minutes. Still some foam on the top, but that's totally fine. It's important to stir it every now and then and get the strawberries that settle to the bottom stirred around. This is why you definitely have to use really heavy bottom, high quality pots. Okay. Okay, we're gonna check that one in a minute on a plate. Stir this one. See, it's getting a lot more foam now. And the seeds from the raspberries tend to stick to the bottom a little more. Again, no problem, just good to stir it every so often. Sorry, steaming it up here. So nice to do this outside, right? Because all the heat's outside. You can see it overflowed once, no problem. The mess is outside. Okay. Okay, so I actually just left this strawberry jam on this plate and put it in the refrigerator. And you can see that it's pretty thick. I mean, you can decide how thick you want it, right? You can keep going. But it's not even all the way chilled yet, and that's pretty thick. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and jar up the strawberry, but I wanna try it again, and then I also wanna try the raspberry. So let's try the strawberry again here. Let it get cool for a minute. And I guess we can put the raspberry on the other side. It won't hurt if they mix a little bit and just see. Let's let it get cool. Okay, so see how the raspberry just like runs? The actual fruit is pretty thick, but the juice is not. Okay, but the strawberry kind of just stays in one place. Let's put some strawberry on the edge of this other plate. And once again, you can boil it as long as you want. Okay, this is the stuff that was in the fridge. This is the new stuff. And it moves, but it's pretty, it's not liquid, it's definitely I don't know. I could leave it a little longer. It's hard to tell. But this raspberry, it's still pretty liquid. So I think I'm gonna let the raspberry keep cooking, and maybe the strawberry too. And it's getting closer to dark, which I have lights out here for me, but it's not as light for you guys. Anyways, I think I'm gonna go milk my cows really quick. Just leave these on low and then come back and we will jar it up. So I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you also, but because it's gonna get dark eventually here, I'm gonna just tell you. So here's the thing. If you want to, you can put this into the jars, okay? put your lids. I use 4 jars canning lids, so I'm going to show you that. I'll put those on, okay? Put your ring on, okay? And then you can put it in a pot of boiling water, okay, with the water like up to the neck of the jar, okay? And you can water bath can it. That's what it's called, is water bath canning, for 10 minutes. But here's the thing. This is a high acid food. It's full of lots of sugar, which is a preservative, okay? So I'm perfectly comfortable with putting this hot, like it has to be actually simmering at the time that you do this, okay? You can't let it cool off for 10 minutes. But I'm totally okay with putting it in the jars, putting the lid and ring on fairly quickly, and it will self-seal, and it will be totally fine, and it will keep for a long time on your pantry shelf, okay? So that's what I'm going to do with these. If there's any that don't seal, then I'll process them tomorrow morning. They're going to be fine. Like, you can leave jelly and jam out on your counter for a long time. It's got so much sugar in it. Like, it does not go bad. Okay? So that's how I'm going to do this. I have done this for years. I have 40 years of canning experience, and I've done this for years and years, and it's worked well for me. In fact, the old timers used to not even put lids. The old timers used to put their jam or jelly in the jar, and then they would pour wax, the paraffin wax, and you would wax the top of your jars, and all it would do is keep the oxygen from getting to the top so it didn't mold, right? It's not that the jelly would go bad even if it did mold, but anyways, okay? So that's how they used to. I've done a lot of that, waxing jars too, but I don't have any wax today, so I'm just going to put the lid on, the ring on, and the heat from this being so hot going in the jar is going to pull, you know, make this air up here, once it gets colder, it's going to get condensed, and it's going to pull the top of the lid down and seal it, okay? And that is going to keep any oxygen or contaminants from getting in here, and this is going to be perfectly good on the shelf, shelf-stable jam and jelly, okay, for a long time, long time, okay? So that's what I'm going to do with these, and like I said, if for some reason what's at the bottom of the pot isn't boiling as much by the time I'm done, okay, and there's a few jars that don't seal, I'll just process them in the morning in a water bath canner. But you can do this, and you can get away without having to can this, which saves so much time. Like, I can, you know, over 1,000 jars of food at least every year. I have 3,000 quarts of food in my pantry, so I've canned a lot. And I've done this with, you know, several things. Obviously, there's lots of things you cannot do this with, but with jam and jelly, you sure can. So anyway, I'm going to go milk the cows, come back, and then I'm going to fill these jars, and I will do my best to show you what I'm doing, but it is going to, you know, get closer to dark here. So we're just going to let them set here overnight and cool off, and we will check on them in the morning. Okay, I'm back from the barn, and we're ready to jar up the jelly. So I'm going to show you a little bit. I know it's kind of getting dark, and then I'll show you some more in the morning, and we'll see how they seal, okay? So I'm just going to put a canning funnel, I'll link one of these in the description box below, right in top of my jar. And then I'm going to use a 2-cup measuring cup, and I'm just going to scoop it up. And pour it in so it's just right here to this lip, okay? You want to leave about a 1/2 inch of head space, okay? And then immediately I'm going to put a lid on it right away and a ring, okay? Just screw it down tight, and that's it. There's your jelly, okay? You also, before you put your lid on, you want to wipe the rim of the jar and make sure there's no debris. I didn't do that because I'm being really careful not to overfill these. So, you know, there's not anything on the rim of the jar. right, it's the next morning. I want to show you what this jam looks like. By the way, how many pints do you think we ended up with? See, it's pretty thick enough for me. I mean, you know, you could keep cooking it down till however thick you want it, right? But it was almost dark and, you know, this is fine for me. It's totally fine. This is the raspberry and this is the strawberry. Super yummy, and all this is fruit from our homestead here that we grew, so all organic fruit and some sugar. And again, we're going to eat it sparingly, so you know the sugar won't be that bad. And we'll eat it on sourdough toast, all the things, ice cream, all the things. So we ended up with 68 pints total, so that wasn't too hard, right? Just stirred it now and then, and I only had, let's see, I have 4 jars that didn't seal. 4 jars of the 4 jars counting lids, okay? And here's the thing. When you pressure can things like broth, so I like to put my broth in pints. Most everything else I put in quarts because we have a family of 7. So when you pressure can things, you want to be sure to use name brand jars. So if I can, this is a name brand jar. It has writing on it, okay? So any jar that has writing on it, they're just a better glass, okay? They're not like a mayonnaise jar. So back in the day, now everything's in plastic, but back in the day, stuff used to come, you know, in mayonnaise jars. This was a Marie's blue cheese dressing, okay? This is perfectly fine for jam and jelly and those kinds of things, right? Anything you water bath or stuff, or even that you just let self-seal. Okay, it is not okay to pressure can these. They end up breaking quite often and wasting your product. So I have saved all of the most of the non-name brand pint jars that I have, and I use them for jelly. So the only thing with that is that on occasion there will be something wrong with the rim of the jar, okay? Or maybe the ring doesn't fit quite right because it's not an actual canning jar. It's a mayonnaise jar, or it's something that, I don't know, something came in back in the day, right? Orange juice or whatever. So I'm not faulting the 4 jars lids for these 4 that didn't seal. And by the way, I could reprocess them. My family's gonna eat this so fast. I'm just gonna stick this in the fridge. We'll eat it sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks or whatever, and it's gonna be just fine. So when you get ready to, so let's see, what am I going to do next? I am going to write on these, okay, with my Sharpie marker. These are Strawberry-Rhubarb. I'll probably just put an SR and the year, SR 24, okay? Strawberry-Rhubarb 24, and I'm going to remove the rings, okay? So you always want to store your jars without the rings. That way you don't have any false seal. Okay, if you go to get these and one of them's unsealed, you'll know that it came unsealed and it may not be safe to use. So just depending on your, probably isn't, right? On your comfortability, if that's a word. So I'm going to take the rings off of these, I'm going to label them, and then I'm going to haul them all into the pantry. The other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to double stack in your pantry. So my shelves are tall enough that I can double stack, but what I do if I'm going to double stack pints is I put a little piece of plywood, okay, in between, so that I'm not putting pressure on a funny spot, okay, with this and maybe popping a seal, okay? So that's the only thing that I do. So I'm gonna get these ready to put in the pantry, and we're done making jelly for a while. And as we pick more raspberries and stuff, even on through the fall, we'll just stick them in the freezer like that, and then some winter day or summer, if time gets away from us, then we'll make jam and jelly. So be sure to visit the blog, wagonwheelhomestead.com, and search for jam or jelly, and I will have several blog posts there that talk about how you can make jam without pectin, okay? Lots of tips and tricks for you there. And so if you like learning about how to grow and produce and preserve your own food and how to do sourdough and home dairy and all the homestead things, please like this video and subscribe to our channel, as we will be sharing lots more ways on how you can grow a simple, sustainable life. See you in the next video. So I was just enjoying some of this jam on sourdough bread. So good, sourdough sandwich bread. Anyway, I wanted to tell you, I spent $20 in sugar to make those 68 pints of jam, okay? So that's like 29 cents a pint, okay, in sugar. The fruit was free because it was off my homestead, right? I mean, I had to pick it, right? But it didn't cost me anything, okay? And the lids cost me 21 cents each, okay? The lids on top. I already had the jars you reuse. So this jam cost me 50 cents a pint to make, okay? And when I was in the store getting the sugar to make the jam, I glanced at the shelf and noticed that strawberry jam and raspberry jam is right around, for me, $5 a pint, right around in that area, like depending on the brand or whatever, but about $5 a pint. So you can save yourself so much money by taking a little bit of time and making your own homemade jams and jellies. So I just wanted to pop in here and say about 50 cents a pint is what it cost me, including the lid, and it would cost you about $5 a pint if you were to buy it at the store. Plus, it wouldn't be near as healthy, you know, if it came from the store. So anyway, just wanted to tell you that. Anyway, see you in the next video.